welcome back. Tonight, we're diving into some chilling tales from places that should feel safe. Places where kids play and families relax. We're talking about playgrounds. You know, those spots filled with laughter and bright colors? Well, prepare to see them in a whole new light. Sometimes the most ordinary places can hold the darkest secrets. And tonight, we're going to hear some personal stories that prove it. First up, I want to tell you about something that happened to me when I was just 17 years old, still in my last year of high school. I was really starting to get to know this girl I liked, who I'll call Lynn. Lynn was pretty into smoking pot back then. And while it wasn't really my thing, I went along with it just to hang out with her. I lived only a couple of blocks from her house, so before I even had my own car, I'd always walk over there. Right across the street from her place was a park. It wasn't a huge park, just a small one with a playground and some picnic tables. At night, Lynn would often send me an instant message on AOL, asking me to meet her at the park. Sometimes we'd just sit on the playground, swinging or talking for hours. Other times, she'd convince me to smoke with her. This park felt like our own secret place, especially after dark. A thick line of trees went all the way around the playground area, making it feel like a cozy, private wall. It was perfect for talking about everything and nothing. We always brought flashlights because this was before everyone had a phone with a flashlight right in their pocket. One night, we both snuck out around midnight and met at the playground. We talked for a while, just like we always did. Then, Lynn perked up. She playfully hit me on the shoulder and said, "We should play hide and seek." I know. It might sound a bit silly for two high school seniors to be playing hide and seek, but it honestly seemed like it would be a lot of fun. The night was warm and quiet, and the idea of tiptoeing around in the dark felt exciting. She told me to go stand by the trees at the edge of the playground and count to 30. So I did. I turned my back to the playground, listening to the soft sounds of the night, the distant hum of crickets. As I counted, my mind was already racing, trying to guess where Lynn would go. My first thought, of course, was that she'd hide somewhere on the playground itself. If she wasn't there, I'd move on to the picnic tables area, which was a little further out in the park. When I finished counting, I turned around, my flashlight still off. I stepped from the soft grass onto the wood fiber mulch that covered the ground around the playground. It made a soft, crunching sound under my sneakers. I aimed my flashlight up at the playground structure. I guess I was a bit lazy and didn't want to walk all the way over there if I didn't have to. You know those big plastic circular things with a bunch of tiny holes in them that a lot of playgrounds have? Like a big round bubble window? Well, there was one of those at the very highest level of our playground. And as I slowly moved my flashlight beam across it, through a bunch of those little holes, I could clearly see something. It looked like skin, maybe an arm, and part of a jacket. But what really stood out, what made my heart give a little jump, was an eye. A single eye peering right through one of the holes. I was sure it was Lynn. Instead of going up there right away, I decided it would be much more fun to mess with her a bit. I thought it would be a great prank. I slowly waved my flashlight beam around the playground, pretending like I hadn't seen her at all. I was going to walk over to the picnic area, then turn my flashlight on, walk around the trees, and then sneak back to the playground. My plan was to sneak up on her and scare the living daylights out of her. Don't ask me why, I just thought it would be hilarious, the perfect prank. So I walked over to the picnic area, made sure my flashlight was off, and then snuck back towards the playground. I was super careful, trying not to make any noise as I crept through the wood chips. Every little crunch sounded loud in the quiet night, and I held my breath, trying to be as silent as possible. I was almost there, just about to step onto the first platform of the playground, when something grabbed my arm. It pulled me hard, dragging me forward. I actually screamed. It was a real startled scream, but I quickly stopped when I heard Lynn's laugh. I turned on my flashlight, a wave of relief washing over me when I saw it was her. The prank had totally backfired. She got me good. After that, we climbed up to the second level platform of the playground, the spot where we always liked to sit and talk. We sat there, still laughing about the surprise, when I asked her, "Hey, did you know that I saw you hiding behind that plastic thing at the very top of the playground?" But Lynn looked at me, really confused. She acted like she had no idea what I was talking about, saying she never went up there. She told me she had been hiding down by the swings the whole time, and she'd only jumped out to grab me when she heard me getting close. My stomach tightened. I explained to her, in detail, what I had seen: the skin, the jacket, the eye peering through the holes. As I spoke, we both slowly looked up at the very top of the playground structure. The tiny, soft, creaking sounds we had been hearing every so often that night, little whispers in the quiet, suddenly made a disturbing amount of sense. My hand trembled a little as I aimed my flashlight beam back up there. And that's when we saw it. Someone's head. It was hunched over the railing of the platform just above us, looking down. It wasn't Lynn. It wasn't anyone we knew. At the exact same time, from right below the platform we were sitting on, we heard distinct footsteps. Heavy, slow footsteps, kicking the wood chips around. It was like we were caught in the middle. Someone above, someone below. Pure terror took over. My mind screamed at me. Run. I made the first move, scrambling to my feet, and Lynn followed right behind me. We didn't even think, we just ran. I turned out my flashlight, plunging us into darkness as we bolted. It wasn't a long run, thankfully, since Lynn's house was right across the street. We burst into her room, slammed the door, and pulled the curtains shut, just in case. I ended up staying there for the rest of the night, too scared to go home alone. That night marked the very end of our late-night visits to the park. We never went back after dark. Who was it up there? What did they want? We never found out, and the not knowing is still the scariest part. Now let's talk about something else entirely. Do you have any memories from when you were a little kid that just make you feel really uncomfortable to think about now, especially since you were so young at the time that you didn't know any better? Like things happened, and you just went along with them because you trusted grown-ups? Well, this next story is mine. It's one of those memories I wish my brain would just erase. My mom used to take me to this really big playground in my town. And when I say really big, I'm not exaggerating. It was probably the biggest playground you'd ever see. It was huge, a sprawling wooden structure with towers and bridges and slides everywhere. If only I knew the name of it today, I'd tell you. The whole playground was made entirely of wood, and it looked like a giant castle made just for kids. Every Saturday and Sunday it would be packed. There'd be at least 50 kids running and playing all over it, while their parents were usually tucked away in a shaded area, reading magazines or chatting, keeping an eye on things from a distance. One typical busy day at this playground, I was running along a big, open platform pretending I was flying when an older woman suddenly stopped me. She smiled and said, "Hi there." She kept going on and on about how cute I was and how much she loved my blonde hair. She had a really warm, kind smile and her eyes seemed friendly. It started to seem like she knew me based on the way she was talking, like we had met before. I was only 6 years old, so I probably just smiled back and felt a little shy. Then she leaned in a little closer and told me that my mom had left and that she had told her to take me home. Keep in mind, as I said, I was only 6. I was a trusting kid, so I believed her. She seemed so nice and her voice was so gentle. Why would I doubt a grown-up? The woman took my hand and led me off the playground. She led me towards the parking lot, and that's when I saw an old station wagon. An older man, who I now figured must be her husband, was sitting in the driver's seat. He opened his door and acted all friendly towards me too, giving me a big wave and a smile. The woman motioned for me to get into the back seat, but as I was getting in, I remember him yelling and lecturing at her about something. His voice was loud and harsh, completely different from how he just acted. It was a strange, sudden change, and it made me feel a little nervous. But I was already in the car. The man started driving, and he drove very aggressively and quickly as he was leaving the parking lot. The car felt like it was zooming. We came to the light at the exit of the park, and it was red. We stopped. Just then, a car pulled up right behind us and laid on the horn. It blared loud and long. I looked behind us, and my heart gave a little flutter. It was my mom's car. Her car was right there. I felt a surge of relief thinking she had come back for me. But then, the man suddenly blew right through the red light. He didn't even slow down, he just sped right through it. Even at 6 years old, I knew that was wrong. And then he started flooring it, driving even faster down the street. It was then, seeing him speed away from my mom, that I finally understood. My mom didn't know these people. These strangers were taking me somewhere. I started to cry, big, loud sobs. I screamed for my mom. I cried my eyes out, completely terrified. It wasn't long after that, maybe just a few minutes, that the man pulled the car over to the side of the road. He turned around and yelled at the top of his lungs at me, "Get out of the car!" His face was red, and he looked angry. I didn't need to be told twice. I opened the door, still crying my eyes out in fear, and stumbled out of the car. Just as I did, my mom's car screeched to a halt right next to me. She jumped out of her car, ran to me, and scooped me up into a tight hug. She held me so close. In the heat of the moment, with all the fear and shock, she didn't get the car's tag number, and she wasn't able to call the police. This was 2001, remember, and nobody had cell phones readily available like they do today. I really wish I didn't remember this day so clearly. It's etched into my mind. I would have rather had it just been one of those blurry memories that the brain chooses to repress, something that fades away into nothing. But it's not. It's still there, vivid and terrifying, a reminder of how vulnerable I was and how close I came to something truly awful. Okay, here's a story from someone who wrote in, a single father currently living with his 5-year-old son. This one is really unsettling because it happens right in his own backyard, in a place that should be totally safe. He has an old wooden playground in his backyard. It's got a tire swing, monkey bars, and a big slide. The kind of playground a kid would love. He says that recently he started hearing strange noises coming from that playground at night. He'll start from the first night it happened. One night last week, he woke up to the sound of something squeaking from outside. It was faint at first, then clear. He recognized it right away. It was the sound of the rusty chain of the tire swing, spinning around as if someone was twisting it. He also heard another sound, something that truly chilled him. A young child's laughter, light and airy, coming from out there in the dark. His first thought, of course, was that it was his own son. Maybe he had woken up and snuck outside to play in the middle of the night. So he quietly got out of bed and went to his son's room. But when he looked in, his son was fast asleep in his bed, breathing softly, completely still. His heart dropped. A cold, heavy feeling settled in his chest. That meant some stranger was in his yard. And not just any stranger, but a child, or something that sounded like a child. He crept to the back door, his hand trembling slightly as he reached for the knob. When he opened the back door to the backyard, there was no one back there. The playground was empty, silent again. But the tire swing was still moving. It was spinning slowly, gently, as if somebody had just gotten off of it a second ago. He tried to tell himself it was just some kid who snuck into his yard for a quick swing, a neighborhood prank. He tried to brush it off, to chalk it up to a simple, explainable reason. He tried to convince himself it was just a mischievous child, and so he went back to sleep, though it took him a while. The next night, however, he woke up again. This time he heard the sound of someone stomping up and down the slide. Thump, thump, thump. The distinct sound of footsteps climbing up the wooden ladder, then the whoosh and clatter of someone sliding down, over and over. Once again, these sounds were accompanied by the eerie sound of a child's laughter, that same light, airy sound from the night before. He checked his son's room once again, only to find him sound asleep in his bed, undisturbed. This time he thought he'd be a little smarter about it. He didn't rush outside immediately. He went to the window first, trying to see what was happening before exposing himself. He peered through the glass, trying to see into the darkness. Nothing was out there, though. Not on the playground, not anywhere he could see. But he still couldn't shake the feeling. He still went outside anyway, just to make sure, just to calm his nerves. The playground was empty. The slide was still. For a couple of nights after that, nothing happened. He started to relax, to truly believe it must have been a kid, or maybe even just a dream. He completely forgot about it, pushing the strange incidents to the back of his mind. But then, on the third night, when he was in bed, just starting to drift off to sleep, there was a sharp knock at his window. Tap, tap, tap. Right there. It startled him so badly his heart leaped into his throat. He sat up in shock, frozen for a good minute, afraid to look outside. His mind raced, trying to find a rational explanation. A tree branch? No, there weren't any branches close enough. His fear slowly turned into a terrifying curiosity. Eventually, he was brave enough to do so. He slowly, carefully, leaned forward and looked out the foggy window. The glass was cool against his cheek. Through the smudge and the faint light, he could see both of the swings on the swing set moving gently, swaying lightly back and forth. And he heard it again, the distinct laughter of a child. This was no prank. This was something else. He ran as fast as he could, his feet pounding down the stairs, and burst out the back door. He expected to find a couple of mischievous little kids back there, maybe teenagers playing a prank. But instead, as his eyes adjusted to the dim light, he saw something else entirely, something much, much worse. There was a towering figure. It was large, dark, and still. It was looming at the very top of his playground, completely motionless, and he knew deep in his gut that it was surely looking right at him. In that moment, his courage completely vanished. His bravery turned into pure cowardice. He turned, spun around, and ran back inside, slamming the door shut. He locked it with every lock he could find, his hands shaking. Then he grabbed his phone and dialed 911. The wait for an officer to arrive felt like the longest 20 minutes he had ever experienced in his life. Every second stretched into an eternity. He kept peeking out the window, but the figure was gone. By the time the police got there, the towering figure on the playground was gone. They took down what little information he could give them, which wasn't much, and then they left. He wishes he could say that was the last occurrence, that the figure never came back. But just last night, there was another knock at his window. He simply ignored it this time, too terrified to look. He's dreading going to sleep tonight. He thinks he's going to install security cameras on his house very soon. Either way, he promised to give an update on what happens next. This story is still unfolding, and frankly, I don't know what to make of it. And finally, for our last story tonight, this one takes us back to childhood, and a terrifying moment that happened to a listener when they were 13 years old. Their bedroom window faced the playground outside. It was a hot spring night, and there was a light rain falling. So they had their window open, letting in the cool, damp air. They could hear the raindrops pattering softly, a gentle, soothing sound. But along with the rain, there was also a strange squeaking sound. It was repetitive, a rhythmic squeak, squeak, squeak. It really started to get annoying after a while. So they got out of bed and went to the window to see what it could be. And that's when they saw it. There was someone sitting on the swing set, just sitting there in the rain. They nearly screamed, but managed to cover their mouth instead, stifling the sound. What was really scary, what made their blood run cold, was that the swing set was in the direct line of sight from their window. And the person on the swing was staring straight at their window, not just looking, but truly staring, unblinking. They could only hope that the person couldn't see them in the dim light of the room. They were too scared to go across the house to their parents' room. Their heart was pounding so hard they thought it might burst. All they really wanted to do was just hide in their bed, pull the covers over their head, and hope that this person would just go away. But the squeaking went on and on. It was maddening. Squeak, squeak, squeak. They covered their ears, not only because they were so terrified, but also because of the sheer annoyance of the sound. It felt like hours, though it was probably only minutes. And then finally, at long last, the squeaking stopped. Silence. A terrifying, sudden silence. They gave it a few seconds, maybe 5 or 6, just to be sure. The quiet felt heavy, like a blanket. Then they quietly got out from bed, took a deep breath, and slowly, cautiously, went back to the window. They had to know if the person was gone. This time, they actually screamed. A full, blood-curdling scream. The person who had been sitting on the swing was now standing, and they were standing at most 10 feet from their window. So close, looking in, close enough for them to make out his horrid face. His eyes were wide and dark, locked onto theirs. It was only for maybe a second or two, but it was enough. Enough to see the vacant, chilling stare. They didn't hesitate. They went straight to their parents' room, screaming for their dad the whole way. Their dad, startled awake, quickly looked out the window. He didn't see anyone. He then went outside, bravely stepping into the rain in the dark. He came back in 5 minutes later. He said he found boot marks. Big, muddy boot marks right under the swings, where a patch of mud had accumulated. But he couldn't find the person who made them. They were gone. This, they say, was 100% the scariest moment of their life. So, what do you think? These stories, they all share a common thread, don't they? They start with something small, something easily ignored, and then they twist into something deeply terrifying, right in the places we expect to be safest. A park, a home, a backyard. These aren't remote forests or abandoned buildings. These are places of comfort and routine where we let our guard down. And maybe that's what makes them so chilling. It's the idea that true fear can sneak into the most normal parts of our lives, hidden in plain sight, just waiting for us to notice. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What else might be lurking just beyond our everyday vision, in the places we pass by every single day? It makes you think twice about that quiet playground down the street, or the shadows in your own backyard.